Welcome to Offsite Dirt, the podcast committed to uncovering all the insights of the offsite construction industry. Join us as we delve into the realm of offsite construction solutions, modern building methods, high-performance construction, lean manufacturing, and beyond. Your experiences fuel our passion for the industry, fostering collaboration and driving business growth worldwide. So let's get down to the dirt. Here's our host, Audree Grubesic.
Being the CEO of a company that is transforming the way construction works and then relating that over to offsite is certainly going to be a great conversation for us. So Trevor, if you wouldn't mind, can you just give us a little bit of your background and then, how did the dream child of Slate begin?
Yeah, sure. So I actually grew up in the electronics industry. So if you go back, 10 years ago, I was doing supply chain for some of the biggest tech companies in the world. So I ran the global supply chain for Hewlett-Packard, Motorola, spent time at Apple, kind of all the companies people know about. Then about 10 years ago, got pulled into the real estate side of the business. And it really started off as, coming in and saying, hey, how do we attack the supply chain and construction using some of the things that we learned over the past 20 years in the high-tech industry. And so that's kind of was my introduction to it. Then over the past 10 years, I spent some time at a company called Katerra that probably people know. They were around back in the late 2018, 2019 timeframe. Went from there over to a company called Amherst Holdings, which is a single family rental platform, both doing renovations, but also build to rent. And a lot of really a data company though. And it's really where I got really into the data. How do you make better decisions in real estate using data? And that was their whole business model. Then went over to a company called Onyx Homes. Onyx Homes is a offsite manufacturing for single family homes that came up about 3 years ago. Started building last year, did about 500 homes. And so I was working at Onyx Homes, helping them get that platform going. And it happened at the time that one of the companies we were leveraging was Slate. And so we were using Slate. I knew the guys at Slate very well because we were partnered with them. Then about a year ago, I knew the chairman of the board pretty well, and they were looking for a new CEO to come in. And it was great for me because I understood the product. I knew where they were going. I had some of my own ideas on how we can take it and do some things differently to get it to market faster. And he said, great, why don't you come over and get it going? So I spent the last year with Slate really, I'll call energizing it and getting it to where it is today.
I love it. And I love your background. And I have to tell you, there's so much controversy around Katerra, but I have to tell you this, I've always been a big cheerleader of them. And the reason being is that innovation is always a hard step forward. And then you're going to talk about construction and construction process. Again, one of the most largest industries and yet so difficult to be a part of. I love that you are in supply chain. We love talking about supply chain, and it's so important we're looking at construction. So when we look at construction and the process and delivery of construction, how does Slate utilize, the newest part of it, which is the large language model, and also your decision assistant, which I think is phenomenal. I'd love to see if we can talk a little bit more about how you're seeing the vision of this company and where is it going forward for offsite.
Absolutely. So yeah, as you said, I mean, we Slate, really the core product that we went to market with about middle of last year. So kind of we launched the product in the July timeframe. We started with a few customers, so we didn't really go out too loud. And then in October is really when we made our announcement of the product itself, which, is all around insights and using the digital assistant to get to those insights. And so, really for us, when we looked at the problem in the industry today is, there's a lot of disparate systems, right? Everyone knows the information out there, right? And these will be plus or minus depending on who you talk to, but 95% of the information that's collected doesn't get used, right? Because it's in different systems. And being able to connect those systems together so that you can actually get information out of them is really hard to do in this industry. And so that was the vision of Slate. How do we go use a model where we can go out, link to their data systems easily, then link all that data together and really tie it to the schedule? We really balanced everything around the schedule. And we say it's bringing your schedule to life because everyone puts a schedule out there. What they're not real good about is updating it and then trying to predict what are going to be my biggest impacts to that schedule. Right. And so what Slate did is really, how do we go harness the data, bring it together in an easy way, and then contextualize it, which means we create it. And so, as you mentioned, we use a lot of different models to actually do that, large language models being part of that to link it together, but then also just a whole neural network that allows you to bring that data together. And once you link it, then you can really start getting into the data. And what we like about it is once it is linked and pulled together, you can really then use conversational AI to go into it, right? So rather than somebody needing to look and say, hey, I need cost information, I got to go to one tool. I need schedule information, I need to go to another. We now allow you to go in, since that data is linked in our system, just really go into our chatbot and say, for example, when are my windows getting installed? It can come back and tell you, what's my cost for those windows? Has there been any change orders? And the numbers you hear is about 30% of people's time right now is wasted trying to find that data. We just got to get rid of that, right? Everyone talks about the difficulty of getting people in this industry. Well, let's get rid of the waste, right? We don't need to bring more people in. Obviously, that'll solve the problem one way. I'm much more on the other side of this from my background, which says, let's get more efficient and let's get rid of some of these wastes that we have and allow people to get at the data they need quickly and accurately in our system.
Phenomenal. And I have to tell you, visualization, being able to see things real time, understanding what the solution is, those are all things that we're striving for. And you also mentioned a really big thing that we're seeing. You know, there are 8 or 9 different types of technologies out there for every company, and especially in the offsite solution. So in offsite construction, as many of our audience members may know, you know, you're not only just building a product, you're also controlling procurement, you're also controlling your CRM, you're controlling what's going into that product, also the assembly on the floor, what's happening in those factories. So I love that you've had this amazing background, and it's very circular, that's been, you know, cultivating and working through this offsite solution. So when you're looking at the technology and the amazing team that you've brought together, and I have to do a shout out to Joel Hutchinson. He's one of my favorite guys in the industry. He is the one that created Splash, and I know that you guys also have purchased that company, which again, you guys keep staying in the secular of industrialized construction. So now that you have your clients and you've built your platform, how are you taking it, and are you utilizing it where you're utilizing it through the factory solution? Are you utilizing it for the developer or builder? All of the above?
Yeah, it's I would say both the factory and the general contractors are our main customers today. So, you know, to your point, what we're trying to get to, and Onyx Homes, which is one of our partner companies that we're working a lot with, is how do you take this all the way from I need to buy land and what happens all the way through to not only the sale of the home, but then using the home afterwards, right? And so, and those, as you know, come in even more systems than pure construction, because now I'm bringing in a manufacturing system like SAP or like Odoo, one of these systems that I need to bring in. And so what we're able to do is not only bring the pure construction data in, but also that manufacturing. And so we do sit on top of both to help the manufacturer, but also to help the builder. And I think what's been fun as we've matured the model, and this is where Splash came in, and I'm glad you brought that up, is that, you know, we then can use, you know, CDPs, right? We can use computational design on these. And so as we think about a lot of the repeatable stuff that we do, very similar to a lot of your, you know, people that are part of your ecosystem here, you know, use that computational design to design the product, which is part of Slate. Think of data centers, power substations, all these different areas. But if we can do that, once we create the design, which is a 3D design, we can then also create the estimate and schedule. Why that becomes so important is because then I can now feed that either into the factory or I can feed it into the build side of the system. And that then falls back into our insight. So I'm able to now look and say, hey, we designed the system, we got a schedule for it, here's how it's playing out. But I can also then learn back into my computational design. So as I'm building it out, were there areas that were hard to build that took longer than we had in the schedule? Were there parts that were over cost, that we costed wrong? And now we can feed that back into the design side. And now you just get the machine learning part of this coming out, where your designs now get better. And if you think about like home builders, like an Onyx example, you know, if they're 5 homes in and we start seeing the same problem over and over, we're immediately feeding back to the factory, we're seeing this issue, and they're able to fix it real time, rather than in today's model, if it takes you, you know, 8 months to build, you know, you're not getting that data back until you're far past, and you probably have 30 other homes that have the same problem. And so our whole thing is, how do I get that information that's happening in the field back into the design and get it fixed quickly so that we can resolve that issue as we continue the builds.
It's phenomenal, because these are all the things that make construction archaic. and being able to have communication and being able to visually see how things are transforming. And I think the tracking of these details, right? When you have data and you can actually see in real time what's happening and being able to make a change, a knowledgeable change, and measure it. Why is it happening? Where are we seeing it? And how can we effectively make that solution? You have all these really cool parts of your project, and I'm going to kind of bring them up, and whatever you feel that we want to drive this conversation, I'm going to challenge you. So give me a little bit more about your cross-platform intelligent. When we're talking about cross platforms, what platforms are you bringing into this slate?
Yeah. So today, and we can, there's a bunch of them out there. The big ones we bring in P6, we bring in, anything from Autodesk, anything from Procore, anything from Microsoft. We connect back into SAP. We have a couple of customers now where they have custom systems that they use. And so really all we need is an API, right? What we've tried to do as we've created Slate is we knew going in, if I went to our customers and said, I'm going to give you another tool that's going to be a 6-month implementation, you're going to have to train half your staff how to use it, it was going to fail, right? We knew that going in. And so what we tried to do was make it very simple. When somebody goes in, we have a connection center where you can just go in and, here's the 5 systems I need to connect to. You log in through Slate. It then goes in and pulls that data in. And so for us, that ease of setup was number one. The second thing we had to do was make sure that this wasn't just creating more data entry for people, right? Again, you want to kill a software very quickly, go in and tell people they need to enter data into another system in their construction project. And so for us, it was about how do I make sure I'm pulling all that data together through those cross platforms, and then have our AI that allows the connecting piece of that, because that's really the hard part, right? The way it's in Autodesk or the way it's in P6 is different than it might look in the BIM 360 model. And so being able to pull that together and make sure that we can link them, and just like every learning model out there, we won't be perfect day one, right? So what we can do is say, hey, we know these links are good, let them go. Here's ones we need to go look at. Well, just as we all know, once we look at them once and fix that, the next time we don't need to do it again. And so it's that continuous learning that's so important to the model as we take it forward. But then to your point, once you do that, some of the visualization piece has been, I'll call it the eye opener for me. Like we have one customer that does use our product, and then we have something we do called Visualize in there. And mainly you can go into any floor of the building, any room in the building, and it will tell you any problem it foresees happening, right? And so they actually ended up doing their daily, stand-ups with their subcontractors in the morning, and they'd sit down with our tool, right? Because now they could have all the subcontractors together. They could look at the floor and say, hey, there's 5 RFIs that aren't closed yet. We know these RFIs take X amount of days to close based on the trade. That's going to hold up the project. What are you doing about it, right? And it actually allows them to sit down and have a conversation around this and have everyone looking at the same pieces of data in front of them versus having to go off and just call one subcontractor at a time and try to find out what's happening in their system. You now take that back to manufacturing, you can do the same thing, right? Here's my build process. Here's my wall panels. Here's my bathroom pods. All these pieces that are coming through a manufacturing process, and start, being able to bring forward those things we know are going to happen. Are there materials that aren't showing up on time? Are there, again, RFIs are always a big issue if they're not closed because you can't start that process. And so the more we can get in front of these things and say, yes, this is your schedule, but here's all the potential project problems, the insights, and then also give them recommendations. I mean, one of our things, and it's, I think it's one of the powers of our tool, but it's a simple example for people to understand, is subcontractors, right? So when I pull up my schedule and I have my subcontractors, Slate can look and say, you've put in 10 days of buffer for that subcontractor, right? I can then go back and say, but you've used them before, they always take 20 days, right? So one of two things, my recommendation is either put 10 more days in because we know that's been their historical track record, or here's the 2 other suppliers in your vendor master, and both of them hit the 20-day target you're looking for. So maybe you want to go back and use them, but be able to give those recommendations. And again, it all goes back to the amount of time people waste trying to find this information rather than the amount of time they're using to go actually solve the problems, right? So if I can give them 30% of their time back to go really solve the problem versus just looking for the information, we can see so many of the problems start going away in the industry as long as it's easy for them to use, because at the end of the day, it's used in the field, right? People have to be able to use it and get at the data quickly and easily.
I love that you were talking about how the systems work with contractors and utilizing the information from projects and knowing that a project might take 10 days or it may take 20 days. Because
Right.
here's the thing, we're not trying to eliminate individuals and workers and contractors. What we're trying to do is streamline the building process and the timelines so that we can be more efficient and more productive. And
Yeah.
it sounds like Slate has really innovated that process. So when you're looking at your current clients, what are some of the things that they're saying that makes them really happy about the solution that you've created for them?
Yeah, I think there's, and again, we have different pieces of the tool, so you can kind of go to them. I think as I said, the visualize piece has been something that's resonated very heavily, right? And that's, we kind of started that with one customer, allows them to use it across multiple. I think on the CDP side, the computational design side, we've seen, one example of a customer of ours where it would take them 3 weeks to get a design done. They're now doing in less than a day. Right now, it did take a while to set all that up. It does. You got to kind of sit down with the team. I mean, really, the intellectual property for those is in the heads of the people. And so, how do you take that out, build up that tool? But then what they see is, that feedback loop that starts feeding back into that computational design to make it better over and over. And so, what we've seen in that space is people using it for one area. So they'll start with, a certain project, and then they just start rolling with it, right? They're like, wait a minute, we can use this over in this division. You think about, again, power substations. You think about data center build outs, right? The number of data centers that need to get built, and we just can't have every one of them be a one-off, right? Whether you're building them on site or off-site, I'm a firm believer in off-site construction, as you probably know. So, you can do that, but you have to have a way where you can use the computational design to come up with your modeling. You can go out and get an estimate and a schedule quickly, and then use Slate or Insights to make sure you can drive that schedule as easily as you can. That's how we start talking to our customers of, you really can take this all the way from design to handing it off at the end of the project, and try to take the risk out of the project, right? And that's what we talk about, right? It's how do we take cost out of it? How do we take on the inefficiencies? How do we take out the risk? And I'll put in there, because I think AI has done a lot in this space. How do you get better safety, right? And that's an area that we're not focused on. It just doesn't fit into our tool. But I think of those 4 areas and where we can take this over the next 2 to 5 years. It's just it's greenfield right now. There's so much opportunity for us to go after.
Yeah, there's never an endless opportunity to figure out something else to, another solution for construction and for deliverables.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it all goes back to what we didn't want to do with Slate is be another person that comes in and gives a tool trying to find a problem. We went in with the here's our set of problems. Here's, again, you talked about Joel Dex came out of, he's been in this industry forever. He was with Econics, he was with Toggle AI, he understands construction. We understand the problems people have. Now, how do we bring them a tool that actually allows them to attack that and fix it? Because again, there is so much out there right now where people create very interesting technology, but sometimes it's hard to figure out exactly what the problem they're trying to solve is.
I think the most wonderful thing too is having this AI recommender model, being able to have a solution where it's almost like learning as it's working, right?
Right. That's exactly right. And the idea of it is every project somebody does, it just gets better and better, right? It'll just continue to feedback. It gets to process better and better. And that's part of what, we work with our customers on is how do you continue to get those learnings and feed them back into the system? And it'll grow over time. So that's the goal for that piece of it. The other one, and we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, is, even if you go before the design piece of it, we've done a lot of work on where do you want to go build, right? Part of it in this whole stream of it is where do we decide to go buy land? So again, if you're a single family home builder, where's that next opportunity? And so, we created a tool and we've kind of gone pretty public with it over the past month. It's called Real Estate Intelligence. And this is something that allows, this system is pulling 75 different data streams in, being able to link those all together and come up with, where the population moves, where are the different areas that are going to grow the fastest, where are the bonds for highways being put in? Because I know if I look back in time when that highway goes in, here's what the increase of growth is going to be. And we did this for more of the home side of things to start, understanding that we could, really go out and help them on a land to buy piece of it. But it's been very interesting talking to different people, because those same data sets, if you need to know where to put a warehouse in, especially if you need to know where to put a construction warehouse in, well, it's going to have to track that. If you need to know where your next power substation needs to go. So now we're able to predict down 5 years, where's the move going to be? How many homes are going to be sold in a zip code? for the builders, what's the price appreciation? What's the potential rent on those? All this data. And it's been interesting to talk to people because it's really where AI has to be. We bring in 75 data streams and it's updated weekly. Now, not all those pieces of data get updated weekly, but we pull them all back in. It's something humans just can't do. There's too much data there to be able to analyze, understand, and give very good feedback about, and then keep it updated because the market changes so fast, right? I mean, if mortgage rates move a little bit, that affects home price appreciation. That affects so many areas. And so, it's really how you think about taking that data, being able to analyze it quickly, and then being able to allow people real time to go in and do what if analysis on 75 different data sets. It's just where we have to take real estate. We got to get this model to that place. And now I say, here's where I need my land. I can then start using computational design to say, I understand that piece of land. I can now go build this type on there. And you really get into the flow. And so we really see Slate over time. And this is, different modules that we build out, being able to take it from where do I need to buy land and start my build all the way through the end of the process, again, to handing over the keys to the building or the homes to allow them to use it.
Wow, touch on so many amazing and phenomenal points of real estate and being able to gather that data. And if we were going to hire somebody to do that, we'd have to hire a team of 100 people, right? Just to be able to try to collect it. So being able to have this resource and being able to have this information and data at your fingertips is really, truly phenomenal. I really think you are the next generation of assisting builders and factories and allowing people to be more productive. Is there anything in closing where you see the future of Slate moving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think, our goal is just to keep building on kind of the base we've made, right? I think a lot of the ingestion of data, there's a ton of opportunity. We're working with one customer right now on this where, most of the people in this industry deal with percent complete. Well, how do you go in with a pair of goggles, look at a room, it can compare your BIM model to what it sees in that room, and then go back and update your schedule, right? That's where we got to take this, rather than a contractor putting into a system saying, I'm 33% complete, and then somebody trying to go and verify what it really was. So I think, we continue, our goal is data, right? So how do we know we can pull pieces of data together today, but then how do we continue to build on that? How do we help ingest data correctly and then be able to update these systems without people, go back to having to enter data all the time, right? So I think as we look at it, we can continue to build that out on that front. The model itself will continue to improve, right? We have a chatbot now that's strong, but we'll continue to make that better. Just like every large language model, over time, that LLM gets stronger and stronger. And so we got a great team that's been working on this. The data scientists, I'll call it one, they love this industry. To your point, it's a big industry. It's a ripe industry for it. But they also understand it's an industry that doesn't move as fast as many other ones. And so you have to make things easy for them to use, have to make them valuable to them, because the minute somebody doesn't see value in this industry, it's gone. And we get that going in. And so, I think it helps coming from a background in it, because we're able to understand pretty clearly what's going to happen if we're not bringing value to our customers quickly.
Well, you have a phenomenal team. It sounds like you've got the right product at the right time. I love that it's ease. I love that it's value. I love that you're being able to hit integration that makes it easier because, again, like you stated, if you are going to come to the table with a new type of technology, there's no way that I have the time or any other person to be able to keep putting more data information and stopping their flow of work. So congratulations on such a success story already. I can't wait to see your product in so many more modular factories out there. We're seeing them booming across the United States and globally.
Yeah.
So it makes it exciting, Trevor. And
I'm
so grateful for you to be here. It's so nice to meet you.
That was great. I appreciate the time, and we're excited about what we're doing. We think it plays great modular. As I mentioned earlier, Onyx is our first big modular company that will run an end-to-end system for it, and but love talking to people who are doing this stuff, because I think it's the future is offsite. We all know it's got to get there for a lot of these different verticals in the construction industry, and what we're able to bring to the table, I think, helps both on-site, but it's even more applicable to the offsite build side of things.
Amazing. Slate Technology, Trevor, the CEO, and talking about not only AI, but the transformation of innovation. I'm Audree Grubesic. This is Offsite Dirt, and now you have all the dirt. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.